Good morning, everyone. It is Saturday, the 31st of December, 2022, and I don't have a whole lot to add to yesterday's tangent, but there are some things that were important that I just wanted to add that I have already posted on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Twitter, and other areas. But I highly encourage people to start looking at that stuff because my videos, it does take several hours to download and get on various different platforms, and oftentimes I am censored and I get deleted. So like if you can look at like multiple different platforms, then you'll be able to at least track me and figure out if I have new accounts up or not in other areas. And anyway, it's just to keep tabs on stuff. Where was I going with this stuff? Specifically too, because I've talked about like the globe Earth and how this is something where it's been a psyops ongoing now for a very long time, and it spans generations. And so this is why I understand why people have like there's so much cognitive dissonance, and there's so much again controlled opposition out there in all forms, right? In social media, our government, corporations, and this is like international. And I've even shared too that various countries they shared like drastically different images of what we're calling like the planets and stars and things like that, and moon landings and things like that. And even with the moon, like with any form of rocks, like what rocks have you ever seen that illuminate like the moon does, right? Rocks don't glow, right? And they're saying like, oh, it's a reflection of the sun that's like doing it. No, it is not. It is a self-illuminating like a luminary and that is heavily also impacted by like light, sound, and waves, and uh, and also like impacts us as well, right? So there's just so many like points that I have on flat Earth and debunking globe Earth and a lot of the references that I cite, and I highly encourage people to take a look at this stuff, right? Because it took me hundreds of thousands of hours of research, of exploration, of experimentation in order to get to the place where I was at, right? And it was like just like questioning a lot of like different things that like even with like evolution and so not even just with space and the planets, but again like I'm saying with evolution and so many other things, like big events that we think were natural that were actually in fact man-made, and then even like big events, significant events that have where there was a lot of atrocities committed where these were also planned again and only to benefit not a lot of good people, right? And so we need to get on this stuff because this messaging is going to get even more and more lost if we don't share the truth, right? And get the truth out there, like regardless of how crazy it may look. It's up to us as human beings to be not only seekers of truth, but once we have it, to share it, right? Because even with like Santa Claus and stuff like that, there's just been so many different like examples throughout history where we have deceived mass populations. And even with Sesame Street, right, with Big Bird, I shared that as well. Like different countries, even with different colored birds, and even with the colors, like they signify or they elicit various different like emotional and physical responses in people as well, and higher and lower on like different spectrums as well, just like sound and waves and frequencies. Where was I going with this stuff? I go on all these tangents. I've shared stuff. Oh yeah, like even sports, right? Like these are rigged at the higher levels, right? So even people that have like 10 on their jerseys or 33 or these numbers. And by the way, say 10, like the number 10, say it. Like that's also like hidden messaging within words and stuff like that. And I've said this before too. I've studied etymology. I've studied linguistics and psycholinguistics, all these courses, and also why I don't agree with pronouns, because it cannot be universally adopted and it cannot be formulated like coherently in sentence structures, and how we need to have more basic language, more simplified, right? There's even like different alphabets, for example, where there's like 22 letters or like various symbols and not 26 even, for example. And I go again on all these tangents. So even with James Naismith, like he was actually like allegedly like born and raised in Almont, Ontario, which is like less than half an hour away from where I am right now. And he apparently again invented basketball. And so like another thing that could have been invented way before then, but also like again this messaging too, like when you're like bouncing a globe or like a ball, and like you have like things like names of teams like Globetrotters and Global Affairs Canada and stuff like that. That again, this is like reinforcing this narrative that there's so many different ancient, more advanced civilizations and astronomers and mathematicians and scientists like of the past that have debunked all of these narratives that like these like very specific brainwashing schmucky schmucks have tried to feed us now for such a long time, right? And even Werner von Braun, like he's the one like a Nazi who came to the U.S. and like as part of NASA propaganda, and even like on his tombstone, like there's some like 9/11. Anyways, it talks about the firmament and then just like more like hidden symbology into like the fact this is a flat plane, like that's with a dome above and possibly below as well. It depends on like which examples you're going off of. But again, these are all just like diagrams and examples, because even the globe model, it has not been like it's been CGI, like manipulated, and they've even admitted it, right? And so sorry, I was looking for my flat Earth book, but it might be behind. Anyway, Eric Dubay, Alex Gleason, David Weiss, like these are people to like really look into, and they get a lot of information out there on so many different theories. John Levy and Autodidactic, and Andreas Xerxes for Lost Hidden History and things like that, and yeah. Anyway, James Naismith from Almont, like allegedly like created basketball like and why, and was it him, and was this like another thing that as a distraction or a way to like simulate war, or like like exploit people in various different ways. And like even with slaves, like there have been slaves of various different colors, white included, that have been like even in Cuba, for example, like even in recent history, but all over the world. And I've even talked about too, like Les Filles des Rois, and like European women or white women that were taken from various places depending on like what era or cycle they were from, and enslaved in other areas too, right? And so it's and we're more advanced, and all of us have been more advanced, and in more ancient times. We've all like again, this like there's nothing to do with skin color. That was like a way to differentiate people, because like these are avatars, and our higher levels of consciousness, that like we are all connected, and we are all like essentially waves, like that are heavily impacted by electrical magnetic fields, toroidal fields. And even with like all this free energy stuff that's coming out more, it's all like regarding and surrounding like toroidal fields and coils and magnetism and things like that, and various ways of manipulating plasma, like etc. And so that's why, like, if they paint people to have like a drastically different, even like past than others, then it's a reason to hate people and shame people and vilify people and want to hurt people. Like, and this is what we do even with various religions too. And why I transcend religion as a whole, and I'm definitely a spiritual person, and I definitely believe that there's higher levels and realms, and there's obviously been like a design engineer or creator that designed this simulation, and utilizing the planets, like the luminaries and the sun and moon especially, to influence like the electrical magnetic waves, and us and everything else, like including the water, right? And so this is not water, like keeping the water down, like on the exterior of a globe. This makes no sense, and water cannot be held without being in a freaking container. And every example people give me, it's like if it's a bucket, that's a container, right? So like even when they're saying, oh, look at the bucket spinning, like this shows that water stays like within, like I'm like, oh my god. And even with Aristophanes and Sagan, like they were showing like these like the shade on the posts. And again, like these are even things that could be like shown on a globe or a flat plane, you know what I mean, depending on where you are in conjunction to where the sun is. And even with crepuscular rays, and how the rays are often like again, like almost even like directly downwards. This shows that it's more local to our environment. It's not 93 million freaking miles away. Impossible. It's almost the same distance away, like in a different area, a different ring, or whatever you want to call it, as the moon. And they appear to be the same size. So I don't know if they're being reflected where we're seeing them, because like even my eyes, right, they're limited to atmospheric like walls or opacity or whatever you want to call it, like my own limited view. And even with like vanishing points and converging lines and stuff like that, like as well, we're seeing that when we zoom in, it's going even beyond. And when you fly up, like higher you go up, like again, like your eyes are like matching like still like a horizontal plane. We're not seeing a curve, and prove that with so many different independent tests. But even Red Bull, like with 73 miles, one of their rockets went up, and then there was a sploosh, and then and it stopped, and then like went back down. And I've talked about crepuscular rays and how like their shining would be impossible if this was a globe like spinning, and then like spinning at like 66 1,000 miles per hour, like orbiting the sun. Like this is all impossible, and we would not even be able to safely land planes or anything if this was spinning at the speed that they're saying it is, and then orbiting the sun at the speed that the people are claiming they are. And people that are globe earthers, by the way, they don't even know their own stats, and or they're really good at like citing the algorithms and the mathematics, but they're not able to apply it in real life, right? So like even with like the curvature of the earth, what they're saying the algorithms are. First of all, we have to make sure that it makes sense with the radius and the diameter that they're claiming, which is 25,000 kilometers, and then work that out, right? So like for me, it's 8 inches per mile squared. For other people, they have like a more long, complicated algorithm, but like just put in the numbers. You can go on a lot of sites online too, and like automatically put in numbers and see like how much like of curvature there would be like for different objects, and even seeing like even mountains like at a distance, how they don't like slope like away, you know what I mean, like as part of like the curve, like this makes no sense. And when people want to talk about arches, oh there's arches, I'm like, well there's a lot of floors that I've seen too in gyms where the gym equipment there's like an arch like at the like on the bottom, because it's like a very solid structure, right? So like it proves nothing when people use examples like that as well. And then there's like the fake excuses that people come up with. It really frustrates me as well, because they're saying like, oh, that there's no, like it doesn't matter how high you go up, you wouldn't be able to see the curvature of the earth now. And we're like, oh really? Then how did we even discover or know before we were like able to invent aircrafts to even see it like above? Then how did we decide that there's a curve to begin with? And then people are like, oh well, that's a good question. I'm like, yeah, it is. And like, and there's so many other good questions too. Like even with gravity, like this is like they're using objects that are magnetic in capability, or what I want to call it, in design, the elemental structure, and they're claiming that is gravity, and it's just or electromagnetic things are calling this gravity, and it's not, right? So even me, like I'm not being held to the ground and upside down at times and sideways at times and then like upwards at times. And then whenever we look at eclipses or things, we're always looking up. Everyone, it doesn't matter where we are in the freaking world, we're always looking up. We are. There's just so many different things that would show that we're on a stationary plane. And again, there's so many different occult books and religious books and books again from like hundreds of years ago too, right? Where like they've been archived. It's really hard to get. And I'm sharing and citing and referencing this stuff for people, because like especially in North America, like we're very heavily censored. And it's getting worse, right? So this is why people need to look at this information while I have it available, because even with me, like my YouTube accounts, they've been deleted 3 times. My LinkedIn account has been deleted several times. Twitter, you know what I mean? The list goes on. And that's why even with Facebook, I deleted it a couple of years ago. And yeah, like it's just constant. So people, I really hope that people start taking a look at the stuff that I've been sharing, and really think about this stuff for yourself, right? And see how you can apply this in nature. And even for like my research experiments, like I have microscopes, I have like different whatever you want to call it, like label things that you put like underneath like the see, I don't even know the words for these things, I just have them, the different types of like sample trays, things that you could put like underneath the glass coverings, and it's color coded, so it's for like different materials. But like I even have like blood testing DNA kits where like I can even test to see like what blood type you are, like in my own freaking house. Like I have like the crystal pyramids and the globe pyramids, and I've done like multiple different like types of reflections in different conditions. I've done even like the freaking bathtub test and toilet test and sink test to show like what, like depending on where I drop water, even like there's different like curves like that happen, or at different temperatures depending on where the light is reflected. I can see sacred geometric patterns that I see like all throughout nature, that also shows me that this is like very divine in its creation, and it's intelligent in design as well, and it's not like from a big bang or anything like that. And even with like with the hexagons and stuff like that, where I've showed that it's only been shown on crystal pyramids, and even where reflections that I see in a pyramid or a square like clear object that I'm not able to see on a globe, right? And then when you look at even reflections, when I look at reflections, I see like the strength and the distance like on different walls or ceilings, and see like just like how big these circles spread out, or the different patterns spread out depending on how I twist like the objects. And I've even again looked at the sun and the moon and how they reflect off the water, and how the water ebbs and flows and raises and lowers depending on the lowering and the raising of like the sun and the moon, like during certain periods, and how like more salt water is more impacted than clear fresh water, and so many different things that are interesting. Like even when the bullet goes like 1,300 miles per hour, like like depending on like the bullet, and even like the rifling or whatever you want to call it, makes it actually more like accurate or even faster, right? Like with a spin than just going like directly through the chamber of the firearm. And so like and so like imagine going like way beyond that distance is what they're saying, that we're moving, when even like a small gust of wind again like impacts people, right? And it impacts the wind, and sorry, that impacts the like leaves and things like that. And like how is it like that this gravity that they're talking about is able to like hold the water down and not like bumblebees or hummingbirds or butterflies or you know what I mean, like things like that. And so, and when I lift my legs, I don't feel any pulse or pressure or anything like that. And again, like look at any proof of any way you can duplicate like any type of a ball with water on the exterior of it, and that's being held in place by gravity. Like this is all stuff, like when you think about it, I don't mean any offense to this, but it's been like it's just been like a very lonely life, right? Like where like there's been so many things that are clearly man-made, and or like even with 9/11, for example, there's been engineering papers that have came out that shown that there was like TNT in like multiple different areas where they like exploded, and there was even videos and people like put like that were putting like explosives in and around the buildings. They were shown like even like leading it like the days before like it happened, 9/11 happened, and how like there was training being done and like at the exact same like day and days leading up to, and media, like fake media that were reporting fake things as part of training, and it was being released to the public, and everything got confused. And so and then again like thousands of people that like should have been in that building of a very specific group that didn't show up that day. And then there's so much messaging that I've shown like on my social media too, where there's like all these different examples of like so many different movies and cartoons and like songs and TV shows that like show like all this like messaging in plain sight with 9/11 and Twin Towers and all of these things, right? And it's and then also September is a very sacred month in so many different religions, but also because of the like the harvest, like the hunter's moon or whatever it is, I believe is during like that month, or the harvest moon. But like you have like the bread and the wine like of the summer period that's harvested and stuff like that, and made, and then like the fruits of the labor like in September is usually when like it's celebrated. And then like that new moon of that month is it's a very significant, again like in some religions, for so many different reasons. And then you've got the spring equinox, and anyway, there's so much to it. And even Libra with balance and Virgo. And I was going to talk about constellations. Ophiuchus, I believe is his name. Ophiuchus. Anyways, it's someone that I just shared on my social media, but I can't obviously check it out on here. But anyways, it's a 13th constellation. So maybe I have it written down. Oh yeah, Ophiuchus. And then it's Ophiuchus. So the 13th sign in a lot of different cultures and traditions, which is also interesting because it's more visible during the and it also passes through the like the solar ecliptic too, right? So like this is why aren't we using this or classifying this as one of the signs, when it even like is in the sun sign more than even Scorpio, or the sun is in Ophiuchus more than it is even in Scorpio. And so and then there's like a lot of also people that believe that there's that there's 13 months in a year, and that there's 13 month full moons and new moons in a year, and a lot of different older calendars as well, especially, and then even 28 times 13 is 364, and then you've got the 0 day, which is also included, which makes 365, and which anyway. And so it should technically be the 13th constellation, and again seen in late November, early December, or up to mid-December, and then apparently also in the late August, early September time frame as well, where it's seen in the skies, depending on where you are in the on this flat plane. That is also again a simulation that is like literally like impacted by toroidal fields. And also like again like these pulses or waves are also what cause the winds, in my humble opinion too, right? And why, if we like mess around a lot with like even the winds, like this could be something that's also like impacting like the fields that are around us. And like if you look at jet streams, and again wind direction, all that stuff, you'll see it more. Oh, I was going to talk about so many different things. Oh yeah, I've talked about climate lockdowns before. This is happening in other countries, and if this is something where we're looking at it and it works, then this is something again where it's going to be corporations and people in government that are corrupt that are going to be profiting off this stuff and then continuing to take away our freedoms and our control and control us and keep us divided and distracted and not address the real issues, right, that are causing like the pollution and harm to our environment and our resources and over exhausting them, like the shredding of trees and the blasting, the drilling, and putting all these different things in different landfills and dump sites and not letting people know that we need to reuse and reduce and recycle more and all of these things, right, and so these climate, and then there's even talking about curfews even in the US, in Arkansas. Like this needs to like not happen in Canada. We already had curfews trialed in Quebec as part of the pandemic, and it did work. A lot of people did listen, but again, like this is something that needs to be addressed because like the next time there's like any kind of a pandemic, which they're already talking about, they're calling it SEERS. They've called it SPARS before too, and it's around the same time period that they were saying this for like over a decade, which is 2025, 2027, and something that may or may not be again impacting our youth, right? Which is why I've been so passionate about like getting all the truth out there, because it may as well get all out there, because then if you can realize that they've lied to us about big things, then you'll realize that these things that they're lying to us about again are minor in comparison to the bigger things, but it's all at the end of the day not helping us and causing a lot more harm, and it's going to further like a frog in the pot make us like keep giving away more freedoms. And then when I say when you have like extreme socialism and communism in place with an authoritarian regime, this is what causes like the death of millions of people, right? And then there's been like way too many examples of this throughout history, and this is where Canada's at, and which is why, like I'm saying, like these are red flags. I've been like on the horn about this for years now, you know, sacrificing a lot, like especially my reputation, but like that's at the minor level. Like I like the truth needs to get out there, and I'm just really hoping that people start taking a look at this stuff and look at Ptolemy's old work in astronomy and see how it's like the oldest science and it relates and connects everything together, and which is why like there's such a psyops to oppose people like looking into it, right? Because like they want people to assume that they're stupid or ignorant if they believe in a divine creator, or if they believe in astronomy or anything, you know, above this plane. And it's incorrect, right? And so not only are we electrical magnetic beings, but like all species are, right? And there's even like again like how like magnetism impacts like certain species, like in birds and stuff like that. You can clearly see that if we interrupt it, this is where we're seeing like a lot of like adverse reactions and events. And when we're taking away resources or pushing away animals like out of areas and not giving them access again to proper soil and trees and sustenance and water and stuff like that, they get more agitated and aggressive, and they start not only fighting their own but then attacking other animals when they could have possibly been like not like a carnivorous in nature or by design, and only forced to do it by virtue of like the necessity to survive, which is as well with humans, right? Like there have been periods of time where we've needed to eat meat based on the environment and the conditions, but it's not something that in a lot of cultures again is like condoned, because like again they believe it's taking a life, and that they have also like, you know, should have free will, and if they were able to speak they wouldn't, you know, consent to a lot of the treatment that we put on them, and that and there's like this call for us to eat less meat because it could be possibly more toxic, and then like with the blood, you know, and stuff like that from like the meat that we consume could possibly be something that as well that keeps us like more inflamed at times, which is why fasting could be good as well. And anyways, there's so many different things we can talk about. But even with terra firma, firm, and firmament, firm, like still mind, mate, being mind, and also different languages. So yeah, curfews like not a good idea, and again, there's no reason for it. They're talking about like electrical outages. Like I'm all for again like reducing, reusing, and recycling, and knowing like the reality of the world, that we're not gonna be able to find another planet to get resources from, and that like trees take a long ass time to grow, and they're needed to like again to help with the soil. Even with their roots, they have their own like means of communication and relaying information. And if we were actually able to like access our pineal glands and our pituitary glands more and communicate again with like a source or whatever we want to call it, and the animals and nature more, like you would understand that like they're talking to us and they're urging us to stop. Anyway, yeah, like there's been pictures going out there of Will Smith and Jada. I know they could be altered and stuff like that, and there's even a lot of older videos that are being manipulated and altered, showing like, I mean older runes and stuff like that. But there's a lot of like, again, like real stuff, and that's the stuff I share. But they're at a temple model on Epstein Island, and this was in 1997 when they got married, and so showing like the sun worship, and then also the Epstein stuff as well, right? And they've been like doing like a lot of like weird sketchy stuff throughout their careers, unfortunately, even with the alopecia thing with that doctor, like even with that slap. Again, this is all staged and planned, and then even done in other countries, right? Like it's all just stuff to elicit emotional responses in people and get them to stay relevant, and or to promote awareness for like whatever they want that's going to get them money for sponsorships and shares and stuff like that. So all celebrities and stuff like that are literally walking advertisements and billboards, right? Like everywhere you go, just like expect that it's like a way to psyops you or manipulating you into doing something that you may have not necessarily had done, right? So even with like eliciting fear in people, keeping us stuck in like fight or flight, we're not using our executive functioning skills, and we're more like, again, concerned with survival than we are with rational thinking and processing information and meditation, and feeling safe to process, again, like traumas and information, or even so many different things. Like I'm going on all these tangents, but I just wanted to talk about that. Santos Bonacci is like someone that I would really highly encourage people to take a look at his stuff while it's still up and out there, and then I would highly also encourage people to take recordings and videos of a lot of the stuff that you really do like, and save it, right? Because this is stuff, again, like if there's like these like rolling lockdowns too, like we're seeing in other countries, like even South Africa. This is all, again, because of like power grids, and people not understanding how electric energy works. And this is why there's going to be like new innovations coming out in the next few months, that I'm hoping like it's going to be like more made aware of in Canada, where we can show like better ways of utilizing our energy. Because even in a lot of different, like, again, like older like accounts, there were like large cities, and again, we've seen this too, like there's so many different palaces and coliseums and Taj Mahals and cathedrals, and so many different like huge things that I've seen like all over the world, and even ones that I haven't seen yet, where there were times when they were like lit up, right? And then there's been like so many different, like even like ground towers and stuff like that, very large ones in Canada that have been destroyed just in the last few years alone, that I've shared. And we really need to start paying attention to this stuff, because there's so many different places that are so desolate, and so like it's not good, and it's just like I'm hoping that we can prevent Canada from getting there. People are talking about Andrew Tate because like he made a tweet to at Climate Check. I don't really like respect a lot of his views either on women, so and how like the treatment of like women, um, but it is what it is. Like, who am I to judge people? I just like I don't understand like his messaging. I don't know. It's just like it just doesn't really necessarily like help women like me, who I don't know, like would more want a man to treat me with respect and dignity and love, and caring and compassion, and not feel like chronically like I have to be on edge because he's going to cheat on me, because I've been cheated on before in all my like in most of my relationships. um and anyway, and it's just I don't see that as being alpha or masculine, when there's been like a lot of like men in history who have been like that have garnered respect from people, and not in a violent way, right? Like, even, I mean, people could say that they got famous because they're part of occult groups where they're just like the, again, like the spokesperson or the representation of what they want people to believe in, like the Pope, for example, who just passed away. I don't know if anyone knew that. Just I don't know, in the last 24 hours at least. And yeah, but like I don't even want to get into that stuff too, but he was also like a lot of stuff that I've shared too that like would lead me to believe that he is a Satanist, and someone that was also heavily involved in human trafficking rings and other underground stuff that people like the Queen were also involved in. And I know this sounds very controversial, which is again why I'm censored and stuff like that, but I share proof, and I'm on Signal and Telegram and other means on uncensored browsers, and I talk to people all over the world that are into this stuff. And it's been like my job, being like an analyst and into like the security like industry, I guess you would call it, like even again with 15 years as an infantry officer, and then owning my own company, and it being like very hard, and again, especially as a female being in this, because like, I don't even know any females yet that do the work that I do, or that have done the work that I've done. I don't even know a lot of men, right? So let alone, yeah, snakes and mistletoe. So apparently Ophiuchus was like he was also known for healing because like he saw a snake heal another snake with mistletoe, or it could be something else that they were saying, but some representation said that was mistletoe. And he was also known as Asclepius in other cultures, but he used this on a kid who drowned in honey, and then he was known again for being a healer and represented with the snake in the constellation as well, and and then because he was healing people, and like Hades from the underground complained about it to Zeus, and then Zeus killed him with a sun thunderbolt, and then Apollo got really ticked off at that. So he put him in the constellations to live forever there as an immortal, as to say like I'm sorry for doing that. But so many different, again, like there's like different truths that are not facts, but there's different truths in so many different books, and I encourage people to look at them. So there's anyway, I won't even go into the list of them, but I think on that note, I will leave it at that. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful New Year's Eve. I will be blasting music. I will be spending it alone because I don't know anyone in person or anyone hardly at all that sees the world the way I do, which is unfortunate. Because like I do feel like, again, it's been like really weird. I feel like I'm living in a world where the majority of people are conspiracy theorists, and they're believing in these wild like make-believe things that to me make absolutely no freaking sense, and I just can't wrap my head around it, never could. And it's like it's hard to just keep pretending that it just is the way that it's just hard to explain. And I don't know, like I'm seeing people being like courageous enough to speak about this, and obviously like I am also leading by example, but I'm really hoping that more people start again like just thinking about this stuff more, please. And on that note, I hope that everyone has again a wonderful new year.